Finding a new job can be overwhelming and even confusing, but it's a process worth figuring out. In the course of your employment, it's very likely that most of us will want or need to find a new job from time to time. In this training, we'll review some practical tips and tools to support you on your next job search. My name is Lauren Harper. I'm an HR consultant with the Office of People and Talent here at UT Austin, and I'm going to walk you through our job search toolkit. While parts of this content are specific to systems used at the University of Texas at Austin, these general strategies and tools can help you in a job search with any employer. There are many reasons that you might want to search for a new job. It can be helpful to consider why you're looking now and what's motivating you from the start, so that you know what to look for in a prospective job. Some common reasons to look for a new job can include searching for a promotional opportunity, leveraging your existing skills to pivot into a new field or specialty, or something as simple as needing a new schedule or a change in your work environment. Whatever your reason is, you should identify that for yourself now and be prepared to articulate it in an interview. Before we jump into job searching, it's important to acknowledge that there are some eligibility criteria when you're applying for a new position with the university. When you're brand new to the university, or you're returning after a break in service, and you are in a classified position, you are considered a probationary employee for your first 6 months of employment. After successful completion of your probationary period, you are eligible to apply for and transfer to another position on campus. Any UT employee who has been in their position for at least 6 months is eligible to apply for a new one. So imagine I start in UT in Department A and work there for 5 years. I then apply for and accept a job with Department B. At this point, I'm not considered probationary, but I am new in position, and I need to hold this position for 6 months before being eligible to apply for another one. When applying for a position, Workday will ask if you are eligible for this position. However, if you say no, it will not stop you from finishing your application. The recruiter for the position you're applying to will be able to see your answer to this question and will determine how they will consider your application. If you have questions about your transfer eligibility, you can always contact us in the Office of People and Talent or work with your local HR representative. The first step in your job search might be simply deciding where you're going to look for jobs. You may be using the Workday job board for UT jobs, LinkedIn for jobs in your professional network, or maybe a listserv that caters to jobs in your specific field. But once you've found your sources for job postings, how do you sort through the hundreds of opportunities that you might find there? This might be a good time for you to consider what professional strengths that you have and go from there. One way to determine your strengths is by identifying your competencies. Competencies are the skills, knowledge, and abilities required to perform a certain job. Here at the university, we have a competency library where our job profiles are matched with the competencies that we believe relate to performing that job successfully. This can be a powerful tool when you start your job search because it can help you articulate the things that you are good at. One approach might be to look up your current job profile in Connexa and review the competencies listed there. By reviewing the competencies associated with your current position, you should be able to identify some of your professional strengths and use those to help you talk about your skills and competencies in your application materials. Let's talk about application materials that are commonly requested when you apply to a job. We'll review a cover letter or a letter of interest and a resume. A cover letter accompanies your resume and can be thought of as a high-level introduction to who you are as a candidate, why you're interested in this position, and what strengths and skills you would bring to the role. A well-written cover letter is 3 things. It's specific, it's reflective of the job posting, and it tells your story. First, let's go over specific. A cover letter should be tailored to the position that you're applying for, not a generic cover letter that could be sent anywhere. It should reference the job posting specifically, citing the number of the posting or the job title of the position. It may feel daunting to create so many versions of your cover letter as you apply for jobs, but one approach is to develop a master cover letter that you make small tweaks to here and there before applying. A few small edits to personalize your cover letter before submitting it is often all it takes. Second, you want your cover letter to be reflective of the job posting. This means that it highlights the strengths that you possess that would serve you well in this job. This is the time for you to connect your competencies from your current experience to the skills and abilities that they're looking for in this position. It's your opportunity to brag on yourself and highlight exactly how transferable your skills are. Third, a cover letter should tell your story. This means that part of the job of the cover letter is to explain a few things. Why this job? Why at this point in your career? And why would you excel here? A well-crafted cover letter will lay out why you are the ideal candidate. This is also an opportunity to explain anything that you think needs clarifying. For example, if you're applying for jobs in another city or state, you may use the cover letter to briefly explain that you're relocating. Or if you're applying for jobs outside of your current field of expertise, you can explain in the cover letter why you're pivoting to a new type of work. Now, that's a lot of work for a simple cover letter to accomplish, but there are endless great resources online for you to lean on and reference while you're crafting your cover letter. And some reference materials are included in our toolkit here. An up-to-date resume is a key factor in applying for jobs. There are countless resume templates available online, and we've included some standard templates as a reference in the program materials. It can be confusing to review so many different options, but remember that there is no one right way to format your resume. Instead, consider a few elements that your resume should include and go from there. I recommend starting with employment history, education, and relevant skills. For employment history, some people choose to put their earliest job first and then list their experience chronologically, while others do the opposite and they put their most recent job first and move backward in time. If you have a long employment history, or if your latest employment is more relevant to the position you're applying for, it's most common for your most recent or current job to be listed first and then move backwards. Along with the dates, job title, and employer, you want to present a few bullets or sentences that describe your work in each position. This doesn't have to be an exhaustive accounting of everything you did, but you should consider the role you're applying for and what skills you can highlight from your previous jobs that would be most relevant and transferable. Education is typically included in a resume. Some people, particularly new graduates, will have their degree at the top of their resume because it highlights their latest accomplishment. But as you get more years of work experience under your belt, it's common for the education section to be listed lower on the resume. For relevant skills, some people choose to list their qualifications or relevant skills that they want to highlight. This is an optional field and may be most helpful if you are intentionally changing career paths. This could be an opportunity for you to help the hiring manager connect the dots of your experience to their vacancy. There are a few optional fields that you may want to include as well. Things such as accomplishments, awards, publications, languages that you're fluent in, or professional organization memberships. Including these is a personal choice that often depends on what field you're in and what type of work you're applying for. One last optional field is hobbies or interests. We caution you to be thoughtful about only including things relevant to the job you're applying for, which may eliminate many of your hobbies and interests. An example of this could be that you're applying to be a pastry chef, and you've never worked in a professional kitchen before. But you have a blog where you show people how to make meals on a budget, This is an example of a hobby that would be worth including on your resume. On the other hand, it might not be as relevant for you to share that you enjoy skiing. When preparing for an interview, we have a few recommendations to keep in mind. First, do your homework and research the employer or the college, school, or unit within the university. This doesn't have to be the deepest dive, but you should make yourself familiar with their website as a starting point. This will tell you their mission statement, their organizational goals, and their company culture. This can help you align your focus during the interview and possibly give you some ideas of good interview questions to ask at the end. Review the job posting again as you prepare for your interview. Make sure you're familiar with the responsibilities of the position and the skills that they're looking for so that you can prepare some relevant examples from your own experience. You don't need to set a script for yourself, but it can be helpful to make some notes and organize your thoughts. Sit and think through a few good examples of your strengths at work and how you could share those examples. Consider some of your big achievements from your current or previous jobs and how you might describe them to an interviewer. By thinking through these ahead of time, the goal is that when you're in an interview, these examples will come to you much easier than if you hadn't thought about them in a while. When you're reviewing the job posting, pay close attention to the essential skills and the required qualifications of the job. It's likely that the interviewers will ask you questions related to this. Two common types of interview questions are behavioral and situational. Behavioral questions ask you about an experience with something in the past. Those are the "tell me about a time when" questions. Interviewers ask these because your past performance can be an indicator of how you'd perform in this new position. When answering a behavioral interview question, it can be a good idea to tell them about the experience and anything that you learned from it or would do differently next time. Situational questions are hypotheticals. The interviewer creates a specific scenario and wants to know how you would react under those circumstances. While this is a hypothetical, you can also use your past experiences and skills to answer these types of questions. You may have heard of the STAR method as a recommended way to answer behavioral interview questions. The STAR method is an acronym for how you should craft your answers. S is situation. Introduce the situation and set the scene and provide the context. T is task. Describe the task that you had to accomplish. What needed to be done and why? A is action. Explain the action that you took. And R is result. Describe the result of your action. What was the outcome and what did you learn? Now let's try to answer a common interview question using the STAR method. Again, the STAR method is S, situation. Describe the situation for them. T, task. Describe the task that you had to accomplish. A, action. What action did you take? And R, result. What was the result? Let's say our question is, tell us about a time when you had to work on a project as a member of a team. What was your role in the project, and how did you work together with your team members? Using the STAR method, your answer might be, I worked on a project with colleagues where we were tasked with updating some outdated web pages on our department website. We had a set deadline to meet, but no other guidelines. I work best and thrive with a clear plan and structure, so I volunteered to take the role of organizing everyone and keeping us on track with our deadline. I created a shared folder online where we could take turns editing drafts of the web pages and comment on one another's edits. I scheduled several check-in meetings throughout the project timeline so that we could come together, review what we had done so far, and troubleshoot any problems. We were able to finish the project before our deadline, and this style of collaboration helped ensure that everyone's voice was heard and the whole team had the opportunity to contribute. Interviewing can feel like a rigid, scripted process, but the best interviews are comfortable back and forth conversations. Whether you're interviewing in person or remotely, be sure to present yourself well. If you're unsure how formally to dress, you can ask beforehand what the office dress code expectation is. A good rule of thumb is that you would rather overdress than underdress for an interview. Don't be surprised by a highly structured interview experience, especially at the university. We coach our managers to have a script of questions and to use that script consistently. The goal of this approach is to give all candidates the same interview experience and the same opportunity to provide information. But the result may feel like a very formal interview. When you're interviewing, you may feel like you have to immediately answer questions, but don't be afraid to pause, take a breath, and think about what you've been asked. You can also ask for clarification about the question if you need to make sure you understand it. And lastly, one of the golden rules of interviewing: do not speak too negatively about your current boss or workplace. Instead, be prepared to find a more effective way to express what about your current job isn't working for you. In most interviews, you can expect to be given time to ask the interviewers questions. This usually occurs at the end of your interview and feels more conversational than the rest of the process. While you don't need to overly prepare a script of questions, you should have a few in mind. Candidates who do not have questions for the interviewers can appear disconnected or uninterested in the job, even if that's not the case. You should use this opportunity to ask questions that are meaningful to you and will inform your decision of whether or not you want this job. You may want to ask your potential new supervisor about their management style. This provides insight into what it would be like to work with them. If you're interviewing people who would be on your team, you can consider asking them about the culture of the department or the team. It's helpful to know directly from current employees what they value about the culture and environment. Another possible question could be, what does onboarding for this position look like? What does success look like in the first 30, 60, or 90 days? This is not an exhaustive list, but hopefully enough to get your gears turning as you consider what questions you really want to know from a prospective job. Now let's get into the reference check stage of interviewing. Ideally, the manager or HR person will give you a heads up when they're at the stage where they'll be checking your references. But if not, it's a safe assumption that they will check your references sometime after the final interview, and you can always ask to be sure. At this point, it can be a good idea to give your references a heads up that they will be contacted soon. You could even send them a copy of the job posting you applied for, or give them a brief description of the job so that they can customize their reference. If you're applying for another position at the university, the hiring manager will call your current supervisor or your current HR representative, even if you do not list them as a reference. You can also expect the hiring department to have access to your personnel file, including your performance appraisals and any corrective action that you've received. This practice is one of the reasons that you may want to consider telling your manager when you're looking for another job. If you're uncomfortable telling your manager that you're looking, you should at the very least tell them once you're a finalist in an interview process. If you suspect that something concerning may come up in a reference check, it can be a good idea to disclose this to the hiring manager ahead of time. While this can feel uncomfortable, the transparency around it can count in your favor. For example, you may let them know that you received a level 1 corrective action 2 years ago, but since that time, your performance has dramatically improved, and you received a positive performance appraisal in the last year. When you receive a job offer, you will need to decide if you're going to negotiate. It's often difficult to discuss salary because it feels so mysterious to us what others are earning and what negotiable really means. So the first step is to understand the salary range as much as possible. Your first piece of information is what was listed in the job posting. Did it indicate a flat salary? Did it list a range? Or was it listed as negotiable? When you first start engaging with a manager or HR regarding a position, don't be afraid to ask for clarification on the salary. It's fine to ask about salary at any point in the interview process. Ultimately, when applying for jobs at the university, you should prepare yourself for the offered salary to be very close to what is listed on the job posting. Negotiating can feel uncomfortable or awkward to some of us, but rest assured, you have nothing to lose. It would be rare for a hiring manager to pull an offer because a candidate chose to negotiate, In fact, they might be expecting you to negotiate. A helpful way to approach negotiation might be the following statement. I really appreciate the offer and look forward to the idea of becoming a part of your team. I do want to ask if the salary is negotiable and let you know that I was hoping for something more like this amount. Is there any way you could get me closer to that salary? And then embrace the silence. Let them think and decide how to move forward. One caveat to this is that your negotiation should be reasonable. For example, if you apply for a position that advertises a yearly salary of $45,000 plus, depending on qualifications, let's say they offer you $45,000, just like the posting said. It might be reasonable to counter with $50,000, and maybe they can match that or meet you in the middle somewhere. But to try to negotiate for $100,000 will likely make you seem out of touch with what the range is for the position and may give the hiring manager pause. There's no universal answer for how or when you should tell your manager that you're looking for a new job. There are pros and cons to each option. You might have a great relationship with your manager and have been in your position for a few years, so it could feel comfortable to share that you're looking for a new role. If you choose to tell your manager that you're job searching, it can be a good idea to emphasize that it will not impact your commitment to your current job. Or you might not have the best relationship with your manager, and maybe that's a part of why you're looking for a new job. In that case, your approach might be to only tell your manager when you need to. If you need your manager as a reference, or if you're applying within the university, you will likely need to tell your manager when you are a finalist in an interview process, because at that point, they will learn either way. In this way, you can control how you describe it to them. You may be moving on from a job or environment that wasn't the right fit for you, or maybe you left an excellent position for an even better one. No matter the circumstances around you leaving your current job, you want to work toward leaving the department in a place where they can carry on your work to the same high standards. Even though you just got a new position, you may still want to be able to use your current one for a reference one day. Or maybe you'll return to the team or department for another opportunity in the future. To that end, a few suggestions for ending on the right note include providing adequate notice. Your notice should be in writing and should specify your last day in the position. If you are able to, you should give a full 2 weeks notice. It's not a requirement to give 2 weeks, but it is common practice. When resigning, in whatever way feels genuine, you should acknowledge the things about the job that you have enjoyed or appreciated. You should offer to participate in a transition plan for your new role. We've all started a job and found that our predecessor didn't leave clear notes or instructions were outdated. Use your notice period to update your shared documents and leave things organized. Lastly, if you would like the opportunity to formally share constructive feedback, you can request an exit interview with your local HR representative. You've made it through the hurdles of job searching and interviewing, and you've landed a new role. I have a few final tips to share. First, know that it takes time to get up to speed in a new job. It can be difficult to leave a job where you were the expert or the go-to person to a new one where you can't fill that space just yet. Take it easy on yourself as you learn. Second, this is your opportunity to lay the groundwork that you want to have with your manager and your team. Start things off on the right foot by being transparent, asking questions, and genuinely seeking feedback. This training has reviewed job searching in its entirety, from how to identify and describe your strengths on an application to handling interview questions with ease using the STAR method. We've talked about negotiations, reference checks, and resigning your current position. Hopefully, these resources will serve you as your very own toolkit to use in times of job searching, whether here at the university or elsewhere. If you have any questions about job searching in general, you can always reach out to your local HR representative or the Strategic Workforce Solutions team here at the Office of People and Talent.